Welcome everyone to the September 24th City Council meeting. We have things set up a little bit differently tonight. We were having trouble with how the sound was for people using a podium. Sound is better when you just sit at the table and you don't speak down into the mic, but you just sit and speak, and that the sound goes well that way. So we're going to try it this way, where you come up and you sit at the table and just talk. You don't have to lean into the mic or anything like that. The first item up is usually the community forum, and we have a consent calendar item that first we want to get this consent calendar out of the way, and we have one person, one person who wants to speak on the eWeb riverfront issue. Kevin, anybody else did you want to speak on the land use code amendment?
No.
So this is about the eWeb land use code amendment. So Kevin's the only one, so I'm going to call him up so he can speak to it before we actually deal with it on the consent calendar. We'll do the consent calendar, and then I will go to the regular community forum part of our meeting. So, Kevin, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Mayor. So you have a consent calendar item to approve the initiation of a pretty complicated and sweeping package of amendments. And I think there's some misunderstandings in the agenda packet information regarding that. It says that you're required to do this to talk about the issue. Actually, the issue of master planning for the riverfront, how that fits in with the downtown plan, how economic development priorities are coordinated between the core of downtown and the riverfront, and so on. Those are large policy issues that we can talk about in any number of different ways. I think those should be talked about at a conceptual level to establish policy guidelines so that the community understands before the council takes its own initiative to start a code process, which immediately brings us down into the weeds, working on the fine details of things, and prevents working at a conceptual level to build collaboration and consensus around what we're going to do in this community. The city doesn't have to initiate all these amendments. Some, all of these amendments would normally be initiated by the owner, in this case, eWeb, rather than by the city. So that's a policy decision, not a requirement to do it this way. And so we've got the process issue, we've got the city's option, and then finally, the choice for the city to initiate these amendments means that the city essentially waives all of the planning fees for eWeb's development project. That's another policy issue with financial implications that I think the council should talk about and not just send through on a consent calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to the consent calendar, a part of our agenda this evening, and we're going to pull B because I've already heard that Councilor Clark and Councilor Zelenka wants to pull it. So let's vote on the rest of the consent calendar. All in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
I don't see any place on here action on what we're going to do about City Hall. I saw a work session on October 24th, but I didn't see action scheduled yet. We're approving the tentative agenda with this, aren't we?
But you didn't pull that item.
I want to pull that item then,
You want to pull that item?
the tentative agenda.
Okay, so then we're not voting because both items have been pulled. So go ahead, Betty. You talk about, you are concerned about why the City Hall item has not been put on the scheduled yet. City Manager, you want to?
We have the work session, but there's no listing of when we'll make a decision. And that means postponing it till next year, I guess, which I think is wrong.
The intent will not be to postpone it to next year. Our hope is that the City Council will make a decision prior to the end of this calendar year. At least we'll provide the opportunity for the Council to make a decision on which option you would want to pursue. So that's what our intent is. So right now we're completing the development of those three options. We also have the council subcommittee that was created by the mayor last time, and I believe it's Councilors Clark, Zelenk, and Pryor. Had a part of that. They've met once. They will also be meeting prior to the meeting on the October 24th. And so our intent is to have the council have an opportunity to make a decision on the option prior to the close of this calendar year.
Okay, I was hoping to see it on the tentative agenda, but it will be there then.
Right, we just haven't actually scheduled the time for it yet.
Thanks.
You want to speak to this, George?
Not to this, but to the eWeb.
All right, so let's vote on this one. All those in favor, please indicate on the calendar. It's 7 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. We go to item B.
Madam
Yep.
Technicality, did we have a motion?
I'm not sure anybody actually made a motion, so we
Didn't
still
do
need
the
to make-
main motion, sorry. Okay. Well, you pulled them both, so we don't have a main motion, but we didn't have a motion for the one we just voted on, did we? Okay, so let's back up, and why don't we do them one by one, George? So just put the motion out for the approval of the tentative work session.
I move to approve the tentative working agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We've talked about it. Vote on it again. 7 in favor, none in opposition. It passes. All right, next motion.
I move to approve the initiation of land use code amendments to enable construction of the
Consideration.
Consideration of the eWeb Riverfront Master Plan.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And Alan, you want to speak to that? And then I'll call on you, George.
I'd like the city manager to address, so I read the AIS and I think I understand it, but I'd like to hear it a little bit, maybe more in detail. My understanding is that this is the usual way that the city would, or this is the way that we're going to approach this particular item by, and this is the first step of many that we'd go through, including amendments to the Metro Plan, the Downtown Riverfront Specific Area Plan, the Downtown Plan Riverfront Park Study, Eugene Code, Greenway permits, and a whole bunch of other venues and items that we need to do in order to get to a final decision about this.
That's correct, and I'll let Gabe Flock weigh in more if you'd like to.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I do appreciate the opportunity to clarify the process. The council's vote tonight on whether or not to initiate the land use code amendments is really only one step, in the beginning of the process to allow eWeb to move forward with its applications, which include a Metro Plan amendment, new special area plan, a special area zone, which is the reason for the code amendments specifically. As a package, this set of land use applications is what's necessary to implement the eWeb approved conceptual master plan, which was approved by the eWeb board back in 2010. So since that time, eWeb's consultant team's been working to prepare the materials that will, and these applications, to move forward with the public process. You may recall that back in, I think it was 2007 or 8, that the eWeb board and City Council jointly appointed a community advisory team, and they held a series of public meetings in development of the conceptual vision document. And really this next stage of the process is to enter into the formal hearings before Planning Commission and the City Council before any action is taken on the amendments and the the other components of the plan. Initiation does not infer support or approval of the amendments. It's quasi-judicial application process, so there are some limitations on the process. The code, in fact, does require initiation before eWeb can proceed. And so tonight, the vote isn't about the merits of the proposal. The substance of that is to be considered through multiple stages before Planning Commission and the Council.
So this is the next step in a process that we started quite a long time ago with the formation of that committee and moving through this whole process.
Correct.
And so why wouldn't eWeb initiate this?
Only the city council can initiate an amendment to its land use code, and so in this, it's somewhat unique given the city and eWeb relationship, but in essence, they're a private applicant, as any other private owner would come forward to make such a request.
So the fact that it's our code change makes this different.
That's right.
And so then we also have to change floor plans, the code, and zoning, and the greenway permit.
As it stands today, that's essentially the package of, it's a big package of multiple applications that will go together concurrently as one proposal that implements the master plan.
Do you have a sense of how long it's going to take? Forever?
Famous last word. I would guess 6 to 9 months would be a reasonable time frame. It remains to be seen how quickly they can move through the Planning Commission to get a recommendation before it comes to council.
Yeah, so there's also the Planning Commission and all the process.
That's right.
And then do each one of these plans and processes have its own set of public input? So there's ample places for more public input into this process?
Well, as a package, we will be holding a single public hearing before the Planning Commission as the recommending body, and then before the council as the final decision maker. So there are approval criteria for each of those components. In some cases, those overlap, but they'll all be considered together.
So we'll package it together and have
That's right.
for efficiency. Okay. Thanks.
George?
Well, my question was kind of along the lines of Councilor Zelenka's. I'm looking at attachment B. Evidently, this is a copy, paragraph out of the city code. It doesn't. It says the city may initiate a Type 5 application on its own behalf, or in response to a person's written request filed with the planning director. It doesn't say we have to.
That's right. It's a discretionary determination on the part of the council at this point. I don't believe that eWeb's made a formal written request for initiation, but we've been consulting closely with eWeb staff, and we're very clear in their interest to move forward at this point.
But eWeb could make these requests on their own without city council?
They can only make the request, and it would be in the council's purview as to whether or not to initiate and allow them to proceed. In any case, it would require council's approval to proceed from this point forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Betty?
I think we need to discuss this more before we go that far. I've seen us start something, and then it just naturally goes from there to there to there, whether or not it implies approval right now. And we don't have time to discuss it now with all these people here waiting to speak. But I think we need more time to think about it before we take this step.
I guess what I would just echo a little bit, what Gabe was saying. Really, all we're doing today is saying, let's go start the public process in which it will get public vetting through both the Planning Commission, the City Council. This doesn't say whether or not you approve, disapprove, have an interest, or don't have an interest in any or all of the different parts. It's just really to move it forward to allow all that conversation to happen. And so, honestly, that's why we just put it on the consent item, because it's not a conversation at this moment. There will be, and there should be, plenty of conversation, but it's not at this particular moment.
Are you through, Betty?
Not quite. I see I have 3 minutes still.
Oh. I'm not timing you. You could just go on.
I know. I'm just. So we've had the community committee, then we have the planning commission. Then how difficult will it be to say no? We don't want to go in this direction. I think we need a work session to discuss whether we should do this or not.
So, City Manager, I just would like, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but what we've been told is there is a time where we legally can weigh in on the master plan proposal, and that time is not at this juncture. Maybe Glenn could
I'll
speak
ask
to
Glenn
that.
You are being given this package, which does contain states that it's quasi-judicial
land use process. If you had a work session before you actually initiated and you started discussing the merits of that proposal, you are at risk of being accused of bias when that finally comes back to you. As both the city manager and Gabe said, what this does, it starts the process. It creates the formal record for the process. So now as you go forward with conversations, those conversations are part of the formal record. We will continue to tell you, both Emily and I will continue to tell you, that as you have conversations, you should not express absolutes, I'm not voting for this under any circumstances. You don't have all the public input. So our recommendation is also initiate the process so that you get the formal process underway. The minimum public involvement will be a public hearing before the Planning Commission and a public hearing before the City Council, but there's nothing that stops the City Council from deciding that you want more than one public hearing. So to the extent that when this comes to you formally with the recommendation from the Planning Commission, if you're not satisfied with the amount of public input, you can always add more.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I was actually going to mention the quasi-judicial nature and what that meant, but I was also going to thank Councilor Zelenka for having mentioned the complete list there, I think, of the downtown plan and the other 30,000-foot visioning processes that have been done and so many citizens have volunteered their time for, so that we have good policy reference for how we're proceeding. Thank you.
Alan?
Yeah, I think you answered my question, Glenn. So by initiating this, does that start the quasi-judicial proceedings and put us under those constraints?
When you initiate this, you have started the formal quasi-judicial process. Even without initiation, in a sense, you really started this a long time ago, when even before you created that joint committee. This, in a sense, this process started, I don't remember how many years ago, but it's when you amended the downtown plan to say that before EWEB could really do anything with this site, seek any kind of land use approval, including even partitioning the property, that they would need approval of a master plan. And that happened many years ago, and then in response to that, they eventually started the master planning process that the council said, let's have this joint process. So even without initiation, my advice and Emily's advice to you would still be careful what you say, because you could be accused of bias. Be careful about conversations you have outside of the public process, because those could be ex parte communications that eventually will need to be declared and become part of the record.
So, and for those folks watching at home, this is quasi-judicial because it's a land use determination.
It's a land use determination related to a specific piece of property. So yes, that's why.
Yeah. And you actually, I think, answered my second question, which was that if we decide we wanted to add more process to this than the minimum process of the Planning Commission, public hearing, and their process, and our process plus a public hearing, we can certainly do that and add more steps to it and talk about any other things associated with this that we need to in order to come to a final determination.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, ready to vote?
Put it on my table.
All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In opposition? 1. It passes. Thank you. Now I'm going to open the public hearing, and those who want to speak should have signed up. Speakers will be called in the order in which the forms are submitted. You will have 2 minutes to speak, unless other, and when your name is called, please step up to the podium, state your name, not the podium, the table. State your name, city of residence, and ward if known. And the lights on the table will let you know when you have 15 seconds remaining and when your time's up. So we're ready to go. We have 52 people signed up. So Jerry Gatos is up first, followed by Chris Potter.
Jerry Gatos, City of Eugene resident, Ward 2. Thank you, Mayor and councilors, for allowing us to speak. I will be brief because there's many behind me. But I will say I'm the current president of BEST, which is Better Eugene Springfield Transit, and I'm a member of the board, and there's several others here who will be talking. We are a group of people of various viewpoints that came together to look at our transit system, and in particular at this time West Eugene MX, and are very supportive of West Eugene MX. We're also very supportive of all the businesses along the route, and we want to ensure that those businesses have the least amount of interference with their operation that can be done. We also want to support the values of this community that we've elicited over time, and that includes being a prosperous, beautiful, sustainable, economically successful community with compact growth. And transit is one thing that really assists in that regard. There's been several levels of review. There's been the Federal Transit Administration, obviously LTD, ODOT, the City of Eugene have all worked together to come up with the best project that we can come up with, and we're all very supportive of that. Outstanding transit is one of the hallmarks of an outstanding community, and we know that you want this community to be outstanding, and that means you want the transit system to be outstanding. You have an upcoming vote, and I and our group urge each of you to vote positively in support of the West Eugene MX to ensure that, also to ensure that those businesses will remain successful during the construction and operation. And as I'll end by saying, MX is critical to our community, both its vision and our values. Again, thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to the rest of us.
Chris Potter is up next, followed by Matthew Hollander.
Chris Potter, Eugene resident, Ward 8. Thanks for hearing my testimony in support of the West MX project. I live in West Eugene and commute to my job in North Eugene, and I've driven past the West 11th no-build signs countless times, and I've had a lot of opportunity as I'm driving to reflect on those signs and their message, and to think about the future of West Eugene. And driving down West 11th, that could leave a person with the impression that the West MX project lacks popular support. This isn't true. Once a person leaves the commercial corridor of the West 11th Avenue and sees the surrounding neighborhoods, they should be struck by how quickly the no-build signage ends. There are hundreds of houses, apartment complexes, low-income housing, churches, schools, and there's zero no-build signage in the surrounding community. If the project lacked popular support, then it seems that one would expect the no-build sign campaign to extend beyond the West 11th corridor. My neighbors want to spend less money on cars and gas. We want to spend more time with our families and less time sitting in traffic or waiting for a bus. We don't want to be held hostage by our cars and rising gas prices when we can sensibly and reasonably invest in alternatives. The West MX project is a sound investment in our community. Fast, efficient, and affordable transportation options are critical to the prosperity and future of our neighborhoods and families. West MX is a productive step in the right direction. Thanks for supporting my family and my neighborhood by supporting the West MX project.
Matthew Hollander is next, followed by Angela Sanfilippo.
Matthew Hollander, City of Eugene, Ward 8. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I am testifying this evening in support of an MX line in the West 11th Corridor. As a young person making my way in this world, I look favorably to the rise of collaborative consumption. One of the most dominating issues of today and of the future is fossil fuel. How much longer can we afford to pay for the gasoline to put in our cars? Fortunately, Eugene MX, a system that mitigates our dependence on personal vehicles while maintaining comparable efficiency and reliability at a fraction of the cost. Not that I need to convince you that MX is a good idea. I think we can all agree that this project has made tremendous strides towards answering our needs and concerns regarding public transportation. The issue now is whether or not the next line will go down West 11th, to which I would ask, where else would it go? West 11th is the major east-west artery of our city. It would be illogical for it to be placed anywhere else. There are very practical reasons to support this idea. A line connecting downtown Eugene to the Beltline intersection would improve access to a wider variety of businesses and commerce opportunities. The businesses of downtown and the West 11th Corridor have different offerings and are quite complementary of each other. Improved access to both would benefit commerce in the city. Additionally, public transportation systems have a very significant impact on experiences and ultimately what someone takes away from a city. A great public transportation system is one that enables visitors and citizens to easily navigate from one side of the city to the other. The MX system is moving towards delivering this experience. I think it would be a great success for our city to be counted among those that are so easily traversed. A line on West 11th is an essential part of that plan. Thank you very much for your time.
Angela Sanfilippo is next, followed by Kate Miller.
Hi, I'm Angela Sanfilippo. I live in Ward 1. I'm a graduate student at U of O as well as a resident of Eugene and a taxpayer. I'm going to keep it short and just say I'm speaking in support of the West Eugene MX expansion because I see this area as being underserved, and the West MX is the most logical and efficient way to address this issue for Eugene residents. Thank you.
Kate Miller is next, followed by Ingrid Kessler.
Hi, my name is Kate Miller, and I live in the Fairmont neighborhood of Eugene, Ward 3, as I'm sure you know. I am here to speak in support of the West MX expansion. This expansion represents an opportunity for Eugene to prepare for the future transportation needs of its residents. As a graduate student at the U of O, my husband and I take the EMX almost daily. We live about a block from the Walnut station, and it's just so easy. We have a car, but we choose to take the MX because it's there, and I really encourage you all to support this measure moving forward so other people can make an easy choice like we are able to make every day. Thank you.
Okay, Ingrid Kessler is next, followed by Sue Pritchard.
I'm Jeanette Ingrid Kessler. I live at 27252 Briggs Hill Road. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you this evening. My business partner, Mark McConnell, and I own Animal Urgent Care. Animal Urgent Care is located at 3845 West 11th. And yes, I'm here wearing my MX Yes button. Like an earlier speaker tonight, I'm always struck when I go to work or go by my business about that corridor of signs that you just see them out on every lawn. But my business partner and I are both pro-MX. And we had also made a business decision that we just didn't want political signs on our front lawn. So imagine my surprise when I got to work one morning in the early spring and found one of those, no MX signs out on our front lawn. And I plucked it out, and I went inside and made sure that none of us had put it out there, and didn't think much about it until the next morning when I arrived at work and there was another one. And I plucked it out, and the next morning when I arrived at work there was another one. So I started making some phone calls asking our money, our transit people. I Googled that, and I called them, and I left some voicemails asking them to please not do that anymore. But nevertheless, they vigilantly came overnight, typically on a Saturday night, and left yard signs on our property, and I didn't think that that was very respectful of my property rights. And equally vigilantly, I have been pulling them out. I have now quite a collection of yard signs. So I came this evening to tell you that story, to ask you to take that corridor of signs with a grain of salt. Our business is small enough that we have two owners on premises who are watching out for our best interests. But our neighbors, for example, is a Taco Time. I went to talk to their assistant manager, and she said she just didn't know much about it. And so if you look at some of the stores and retailers on West 11th and some of the businesses there, they might not have quite the vigilance in protecting their property. Thank you.
Sue Pritchard is next, followed by Alex Page.
Hi. I'm Sue Pritchard. I live in Allen Zelenka's ward, and I'm on the Board of Advisors of Better Eugene Springfield Transit. I'm here to encourage you to vote yes for the MX West Eugene MX extension. And I have 2 points I'd like to make. One is regarding the present, and one is regarding the past. The future, I'm sorry. Trying to keep them short. Regarding the present, we need the MX extension and future extensions in other locations in order to effectively implement the recommendations in Envision Eugene. We committed to accommodating all commercial and multifamily growth in the core on key transit corridors, and I don't see how we can do that without the MX extension. And regarding the future, transit decisions require thinking ahead, beyond today, to future generations. Good transit enhances livability, providing access for everyone to jobs, schools, recreation, and homes. Good transit makes a good city. We need to plan now for that future. My final comment is that I believe this is a leadership decision. You've been elected to make decisions that serve the entire community well, and you've done a great job at that so far. This is one of those decisions, and I believe it should be made by you and not by a district-wide vote. And I encourage you to make that a yes vote. Thank you.
Alex Page is next, followed by Mia Nelson.
Afternoon. Thank you. My name is Alex Page. I'm a resident of Eugene. I'm here to let you know that, like many of my peers, I do not own a car and rely on transit and my own 2 feet to get where I want to go. I hope that you will support the West MX extension and the entire MX network. Thank you.
Mia Nelson is next, followed by Jesse Stewart.
Hello, I'm Mia Nelson, representing 1,000 Friends of Oregon at 220 East 11th in Eugene. I'm also on the board of directors of Better Eugene Springfield Transit. I actually live in Lowell, and we're fortunate to have LTD service out that far, but if we had needed to pass a district-wide public vote to get service out in Lowell, do you think we'd have any buses out there today? I sure don't. And in fact, I really doubt there's any individual bus route today that could survive a district-wide vote. And that's because no matter what the route, the majority of voters in the district aren't going to care about that because the district is so big and any individual route is so small. And that's why I'm very concerned about Councilor Polling's announcement that on Wednesday he might move to send the MX decision back to LTD with a request for a district-wide vote. I'm begging you, please don't do that. I think this is Eugene's decision. This is a major community asset on the table. This MX route will benefit Eugene citizens more than anyone else in LTD's district. So why would you turn over the power to make a decision about something this important to people outside your community who have far less reason to care? Every one of you sitting here represents thousands of people who trusted you to make informed decisions on their behalf. And if after hearing all the evidence, after making all the compromises and improvements that can be made, if any of you still think that the best thing for Eugene to do is to kill MX, then you should be the ones to vote to do that. Don't transfer the decision to voters in Cottage Grove, Junction City, and Springfield. You should do it, represent your voters, and make the decision they elected you to make. So I very much hope that you do not choose to make that motion on Wednesday, Councilor Polling. I know that you do have concerns about the MX project, but I hope you will stay the course and keep working on this and try to find a solution that allows the project to move forward. And if that fails, I would surely respect your carefully considered no vote. And that would be so much better than a decision that avoids making a real decision at all. Thanks.
Jesse Stewart is next, followed by Laura Potter.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Jessie Stewart. I'm a resident of Ward 1. I'm also a graduate student at the University of Oregon, and I use public transportation on a regular basis. When I first moved here last year, I noticed that the West Eugene area seemed to be disconnected from my daily routine due to the lack of transportation options. I support the extension of the West MX as a means to increase livability, connectivity, and economic development of the West Eugene area. Thank you.
Laura Potter is next, followed by Ashley Miller.
My name is Laura Potter. I'm the Director of Business Advocacy for the Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce, and I live in Councilor Pryor's ward. In 2010, the Chamber took a position to support the West 11th MX expansion. The Chamber has supported the Franklin line and watched as the route's ridership increased to surpass 20-year projections in the first year alone. Given our position of support and the clear connection between good transit options and a vibrant city, I was thrilled to join a group of community leaders to form BEST, Better Eugene Springfield Transit. We believe good transit is a cornerstone of a healthy, vibrant community. Good transit promotes economic development, a healthy environment, and a great quality of life. Good transit also provides a reliable, efficient, and convenient level of service to the many low-income families in our community who rely on transit every day. And MX is good transit. With 10-minute service, direct routes, dedicated lanes, convenient pay stations, and boardings, MX significantly reduces commute times. Please join us in supporting this great system and help us promote a more healthy, livable, and vibrant community. Thank you.
Matthew Miller is next, followed by Jennifer Self.
I'm Ashley Miller. I live in Ward 5 in the Delta Oaks area, but I work downtown in Eugene as well. I just want to say thank you, Mayor and councilors, for allowing us the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm also on the board of directors for the Better Eugene Springfield Transit. Tonight, I'm also here as a representative for the Oregon League of Conservation Voters. OLCV has endorsed the MX project, including the West MX leg of the overall route. We feel it is important that we have a comprehensive transit system in Lane County that is accessible and easy to use. Having more options for transit is better for our economy, the environment, and our community. When public transit is easier to use, it becomes accessible to more people, which will in turn help lower our carbon footprint in Eugene and make us an even more sustainable city. This also results in economic growth for those along the MX corridors, which is also good for our community. MX especially makes sense in areas like West Eugene, where we expect to see much of our residential growth in the next 20 years. This is crucial for our comprehensive planning in Eugene through the Envision Eugene work. These are just some of the reasons that we are in support, and we urge the council to also move ahead with this project. Thank you.
Jennifer Self is next, followed by Toby Barwood.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jennifer Self. I support MX because it's a fast, reliable, and convenient alternative transportation option for Eugene and Springfield metropolitan area. I'm a graduate student at the University of Oregon and very proud to say that I'm a first-time homeowner. Access and close proximity to the MX was a huge determining factor when I was selecting my new home. As a graduate student, I needed an affordable house, but one that was still readily accessible to the university and commercial areas. Because of housing prices, I was unable to afford a house surrounding the university in the South Hills, Jefferson West Side, or downtown. I purchased a home just north of downtown Springfield that met all of my needs. And now it takes me only 20 minutes to get from my front door to my office on campus, thanks to my commute by MX and bike. If it weren't for MX, I probably would not have considered leaving Eugene to move to Springfield, simply due to the distance from campus and the fact that I love Eugene. MX has the ability to not only provide fantastic alternative transportation, but also spur development, revitalization, and economic activity to the outlying areas. Thank you for your support, expanding MX.
Toby Barwood is next, followed by Hannah Classman.
Good evening. My name is Toby Barwood. I live in Ward 1. It seems to me that the debate over MX is a fundamental tension between what we have now and what we collectively see as our future. We can agree on what we have, but there appears to be strikingly different versions of what we collectively see our city like tomorrow. If change will come whether we plan for it or not, and if we must choose between some version of the future, it seems to me we need to ask ourselves what version will solve more problems than it creates. One vision seems to be about more of the same everywhere. But more of the same solves few of our current problems, while population growth, energy costs, and environmental forces continue to create new ones for us. An alternative future where my family can walk, ride our bikes, hop on transit, or drive if we choose to seems brighter to me. And transit in general, and MX in particular, seems to me to be a step towards a future with greater opportunity. It seems to me that building MX will increase choices and not limit them. With the concerted efforts of both our transit and urban planners, the resulting effect will be over time to shape those inevitable changes into a city that is easier to get around for everyone, friendlier to our visitors, and economically diverse and vibrant. I see that future as bright indeed, ultimately giving my family more choices for our daily lives in Eugene. And it seems to me that MX solves more problems than it creates, and I urge you to support it in West Eugene.
Hannah Classman is next, followed by Jason Lugo.
Thank you. My name's Hannah Classman. I live in Ward 1. I'm a University of Oregon graduate student as well as a Eugene native, and I've been using LTD buses for over 20 years, and most recently a daily user of MX. Part of that experience included being an employee of the Health and Safety Institute, which is a large business located west of the Walmart on West 11th. Without a vehicle at the time, my available bus times were limited and left me arriving either 45 minutes early or late for work. Getting to work was a daily frustration, and this eventually drove me to find work elsewhere. It is largely because of this experience that I support the West MX expansion. It will provide a much-needed improvement in transit service for employees and customers alike to the West 11th corridor. As a university student, employee, and native Eugenian, I urge your support for the West MX expansion and the benefits it will provide our community. Thank you.
Jason Lugo is next, followed by Ian Foster.
Thank you. My name is Jason Lugo, Eugene resident, Ward 7, and I also support West MX. I don't own a vehicle, and the West MX expansion would be a boon to me, and I hope you support West MX because I think we all do. Thank you.
Ian Foster is next, followed by Greg Wreckoff.
Hello, my name is Ian Foster, and I live at 1263 Oak Street, Ward 1. And I'm a graduate student at the University of Oregon in the Community and Regional Planning Department, and also on the board of directors for Better Eugene Springfield Transit. I'm here today to show my support for the West MX extension. Having quality transit service is a vital resource for not just students, but for the community as a whole. As connecting 25,000 students to the businesses on West 11th, I see as a positive for economic development in that region. As someone who rides MX regularly to get to work in Springfield, I could really appreciate getting out to West 11th in an easier fashion. Thank you for your support.
Greg Wreckoff is next, followed by Larry Reed.
Mayor Piercy, members of the Eugene City Council, my name is Greg Wreckoff, and I'm a 20-year resident of West 11th Avenue. I'm in Councilor Brown's ward. I'm here tonight representing the University of Oregon, and the university supports MX. The university is working hard to help students thrive throughout Eugene and Springfield as car-free as possible, and we need LTD and MX to do this. Of the 3,700 students living in the residence halls last year, less than 20 brought cars and purchased overnight parking. 20% of the more than 20,000 students who live off campus arrive on campus by LTD. 12% of faculty and staff use LTD. Many of them use the first two legs of the MX system. LTD helps the university and community make connections for education, housing, and employment. It helps campus visitors and patrons enjoy the campus, the library, lectures, museums, theater, the Alumni Center, and Matthew Knight Arena. The full development of a fixed route, easily found, easily understood, easily usable transit network is a valuable resource to the university. MX provides that network. This is a project that has shown immediate benefits. The systems, with its more than 10 million riders, has proven it works in the here and now. Just think of the possibilities for the future. Please think of this as a legacy project, not unlike the airport, the Holt Center, and the library. All faced opposition at that time. All now are valuable resources. In my careers, I've had a chance to know and work with all of you. I greatly appreciate and respect your dedication. Thank you for your service to the community.
Larry Reed is next, followed by Joshua Skov.
Mayor, excuse me, Mayor and Council, my name is Larry Reed, 4765 Village Plaza Loop, Eugene, Oregon, 97401. I'm here tonight in support, obviously, of the West Eugene MX, the bus rapid transit route for West Eugene. I've written letters to the editor, an op-ed piece in the Register Guard, and also letters directly to the City Council in support of this MX line. This, for the reasons that I set out in all those documents, it deserves the support and deserves the vote of your approval. I've heard rumors, and I guess maybe it's not so rumors, that council member is going to send this or make a motion to send the MX project out to a vote. I think this is really a bad idea. Not that I'm against people voting on it, but I think it sets the wrong precedent in this case. With all the planning and associated public process that has been involved over the last 15 years, and as a community is starting, and then you've got the last step of the process of that long public involvement process, and as the last step of the planning process to take it to a vote. And actually, Mike Clark, I believe, gave me another reason why it's a bad precedent, and that is all of the MX approval, land use approval, and transportation are set in firm community policy decisions, and I don't think at this late 11th hour you start sending agreed upon community policy decisions out for a vote, especially to a body that, like the Lane Transit District, which is much greater, wider than just the city of Eugene. So for those reasons, I'm recommending that you approve this project. Thank you.
Dr. Skov is next, followed by Gene Stacy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As always, thank you for your time and service. My name is Joshua Skov. In the interest of time, you can find my sustainability and transportation-related affiliations in Google. But I will say that I'm an advisor to Better Eugene Springfield Transit and also a resident of Ward 1. I'd also like to speak in favor of MX by addressing the idea of a public vote. While I'm a strong supporter of representative democracy in virtually all its forms, I'm actually one of those rare people who really enjoys the ballot initiative process in its rich detail. I do think it's important to say MX is not the kind of issue to put on the ballot. And the final decision really should lie with you, councilors and mayor. This is very much what your job is about. Now, fortunately, LTD and others have laid the necessary foundation for this decision. LTD has received a lot of criticism for its handling of the MX public process, even from many supporters such as myself. But let's take a moment to reflect on what that process, however bumpy and imperfect, has actually delivered. Many open houses and extensive opportunity for public comment on many potential routes. Many corridor committee meetings with stakeholder input and public comment, lengthy deliberations in the MX steering committee and by the LTD board, always with regular public comment, and overall a menu of actions to mitigate the impacts. And of course, with all complex technical decisions, you receive outside guidance from a range of organizations. Just two examples: ODOT, whose traffic analysis found that conditions on 6th and 7th would actually be improved, and the Federal Transit Administration, whose analysis strongly endorsed the project. And finally, you've received thoughtful guidance on this and a message of support from CLUTAC, the joint committee of the two advisory bodies you have, Planning and Sustainability Commissions. You'll hear more from them later. In short, by making a decision in favor of this project, you will be acting decisively and listening to the overwhelming chorus of voices who have considered this issue closely. Is there unanimity in the community? No. It's a complex decision. But the process to date has delivered a solid and sensible verdict in favor. Please vote yes on MX.
Gene Stacy is next, followed by Paul Lakeman.
Gene Stacy, 944 West 12th Alley. We've all been having a bit of a hard time getting information on the downtown public safety zone. And I found out as I received it this week why. And it's because the news is very bad. The news is that 35% of the exclusion notices, the most serious charge was marijuana. We need this information. My only recourse at this moment is to sue the city to get it under the federal and state freedom of information laws. You have another way to get it and save me that trouble. Even though you've been asking for it individually, you have not gone together as a group, as a majority, and said, Pete, we want the data. We don't want just your interpretation of a few cases. We want the data. I ask you tonight for 5 or more of you to vote to demand that EPD respond to the inquiries by CLDC, ASCLU, Occupy, and other organizations to give us the data that we requested. It's possible. My request was vetted by Mr. Perry of the courts. It was granted as a yes by Pete Kearns in his written agreement to give it to me. You are the only ones with the power to prevent me from doing something I don't want to do, which is sue this city for information. So please, 5 of you vote to be transparent in the administration of the downtown public safety zone. Thank you very much.
Paul Lakeman is next, followed by Joe McAndrew.
My name is Paul Heyman. I live in Ward 1 at 601 West 11th Avenue. I am a supporter of good quality, effective transit services, and for this reason, I support the extension of the MX system to West Eugene. MX provides faster, more frequent, and more efficient transit service, and is therefore a wise investment for our community. We need MX to carry out the vision established in the Trans Plan, in the Climate and Energy Action Plan, and in Envision Eugene. I ask the City Council to please support the West Eugene MX. Thank you.
Joe McAndrew is next, and then it's Michael Duncan.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Joe McAndrew. I'm the president of the UO student group LiveMove, which focuses on improving livability and transportation options for the campus community. I'm also a Master's of Community and Regional Planning student at the UO, and I'm a resident of Eugene living at 1035 Jefferson Street. I'm here tonight to ask you guys to lead. For myself and many of my peers that you've heard, I'm representative of the millennial generation, Generation Y, or some people might call us the indebted generation, whatever you wish to call us. But one thing is clear, in large numbers we are not accepting the status quo, and we are moving to cities that offer us alternatives to the automobile-centric development of yesteryear. This is noted none better than in a recent article in The Atlantic titled "The Cheapest Generation." In this article, they highlight some staggering trends that I'm going to share with you now. In 2010, adults between the ages of 21 and 34 bought just 27% of all new vehicles sold in America, down from the peak of 38% in 1985. Miles driven are down too, not just for our generation, but for the whole population. Even the proportion of teenagers with license fell by 28% between 1998 and 2008. At the UO, you have nearly 25,000 students, most from my generation. You have tens of thousands more at LCC. I'm not naive to believe that the student population is the only interest in the room tonight, but I do know that someday we will be the job creators, the politicians, and the innovators. And I believe that these trends are not going to stop. If you wish to attract us to stay here upon completion of our degrees to create jobs and to lead, we ask you to support a transportation that supports our needs as well as those of the silent majority here in Eugene. For these reasons, I ask that you lead and hear our voices and vote yes in support of this legacy project that is West MX Extension. Thank you.
Michael Duncan is next, followed by Douglas Bovia.
Hello, thank you for having me here. My name is Michael Duncan. I live just west of Chambers in Ward 1. I'm a graduate student in the Community and Regional Planning program at University of Oregon, but I'm also a resident here in Eugene. For my wife and I, Eugene is our home and it is our community. We've been homeowners since 2004. We have long-term jobs, we vote, we pay taxes, and we support bus rapid transit, and specifically the West Eugene MX extension. I've heard a vocal minority talk about how the West MX extension is not wanted by some here in Eugene. They equate MX with losing our tax dollars. But I've also heard tremendous support for West Eugene MX by a majority of people who live and work along the West 11th corridor, people who know and believe that MX means using our tax dollars for the public good of transportation. There are concerns that speak to the numbers and how this project is funded. I'm not about to say that we shouldn't be fiscally aware, but let me pose this question. Do we ask our police officers if they can justify the help they provide for us? Can they write more tickets to generate revenue? Do we ask our librarians to charge more for the books we read? Providing transportation access to our community is a fundamental responsibility. The West MX extension will be a critical part of that transportation access, and we owe it to the community to make this happen. Cities are evolving, they grow, and they both support and embrace progress. They are not static. Eugene is no different as our community continues to evolve and grow. The West 11th corridor is pivotal in that growth. There are hundreds of families and businesses that will benefit from smart, efficient transportation that supports our community as we advance to a more sustainable, livable future. One thing that I've heard a lot lately is the phrase, our money, our transit. I thought about that, and it is our money, it is our transit, and we support the West Eugene MX extension. Hope you support it too. Thank you.
Douglas Bovia is next, followed by Juan Carlos Valea.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Douglas Bovia. I live on College Hill and represent George Brown's ward. Got to get the lingo right here. I'm in support of the MX in general because I'm in support of mass transit in general, and the bus rapid transit system is a rational and effective way of delivering people quickly and efficiently, and we need that kind of efficiency out West 11th. I use West 11th myself often, using commerce out there, and I would love to be able to use the MX system to do that along with my bicycle. As a physician, I am happy about the wide doors and the level access onto the buses. It's improved safety. Safety is important, and the MX system operates with that opportunity. Also, just again, increased speed at decreased cost. I think it's a good plan. I urge your support. Thank you.
Juan Carlos Valea is next, followed by Ann Kelvin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Councilors, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Juan Carlos Valea. I live in Ward 2. I would like to take this opportunity to speak to you about the Eugene MX and briefly touch upon the Opportunity Eugene Task Force recommendations, which you will see on Wednesday. Our community is in need of a comprehensive transportation system that will look down 20 years from now. We need a system that ensures connectivity, frequency, and of course, access. The existing MX system has been very successful. As you know, I have supported the MX system right from the beginning, but I took the time to systematically hear from all sides of the issue. Some of the concerns I've heard were about property rights and taxes. I know that you and LTD will have worked and will continue to work to mitigate any adverse impacts. This project is right for our community. It is right for job creation. It will bring about $95 million with construction jobs to our local economy. It is the right decision on behalf of those who are here and on behalf of those who are not yet here. The MX project also supports pillar number 4 for the Envision Eugene, which reads promote compact urban growth, development, and efficient transportation options. On the Opportunity Task Force, please consider supporting all 6 recommendations, specifically the formation of the commission to look upon the issues of homelessness. Say yes to MX and support the task force recommendations. For your time, I thank you.
Ann Kelvin is next, followed by Julie Daniel.
Hello. My name is Ann Kelvin. I live at 1601 Olive Street in George Brown's ward. I'm with Opportunity Village Eugene. The following site selection criteria were included in the OVE proposal submitted in July. The criteria were, ideally, Opportunity Village will be on publicly owned land that is currently underutilized. The following specifications are desired. Located near the urban core so as to be accessible to services. Situated near neighbors who are supportive. Located near affordable transportation options such as bus routes and bike paths. Access to basic utilities such as water, electric, and sewage, for which SDC fees have already been paid. Environmental conditions that are or can be made safe and sanitary. To these criteria, I would add, located in an area where families with children can be served. Families with children are the fastest growing segment of the houseless population. I hope these criteria will be of assistance in selecting a location for houseless persons to be. Thank you.
Julie Daniel is next, followed by Adam Gomez.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Julie Daniel, Ward 3. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you again tonight. I've been before you before to speak on behalf of MX. I think you've heard my feelings about its benefits to the community, and I think you've heard from many people very eloquently tonight talking about the benefits that MX offers. So I want to really make 2 points to you. MX, there's a strong, broad-based grassroots support for the West Eugene MX that really, until recently, haven't had a focused voice. I'm another person who's on the board of directors for BEST, Better Eugene Springfield Transit, and we're a new 501c3 nonprofit working to ensure a regional system that fosters prosperity, social equity, and a healthy natural environment. We're not spokespeople for LTD. We're an independent group that believes transit is a key component for a healthy future for the community. And we're a diverse lot. When the Chamber of Commerce and 1,000 Friends of Oregon are working shoulder to shoulder, that gives you an idea of the breadth of support. This is an unusual partnership. Though we've only recently organized and gone public, we've really been overwhelmed with the outpouring of support, and more people are signing up every day. My second point is, what's going to happen if we kill this project? If we turn it down at this late date, we're going to jeopardize a successful, partially built system that's been improved in plan after plan over a decade, from Transplan to Envision Eugene, plans that involved extensive public processes. We haven't, as a community, identified an alternative system or a funding source to pay for it. Let's not waste any more time here. Let's get the next leg of the system built and approve West 11th MX. Thank you.
Adam Gomez is next, followed by Jeff Ostroff.
Hello, thanks for the opportunity to speak. Adam Gomez, Ward 2. I'm a University of Oregon undergraduate student and also a member of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. BPAC members unanimously support the West Eugene MX extension. It would make the corridor more accessible to the many members of the community that do not rely on automobiles as their main source of transportation. This is a critical component in making Eugene more livable and creating a transportation system for the future. As a University of Oregon student, it would also make the area more accessible, allowing students to more easily patronize the businesses along this corridor. I urge you to support the West Eugene MX. Thank you.
Jeff Ostroff is next, followed by Stacy Ludington.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jeff Ostrov, and like the mass majority of this community, I support the extension of the MX. I come to this topic from two different perspectives. I'm working on a PhD in communication as well as a master's degree in regional planning. From a communication perspective, I think this is a really interesting topic, but only because it's obvious that there's a very small but very vocal minority with a better PR campaign than the general public. From a planning perspective, and as someone who has lived in West Eugene, I echo the sentiments of my fellow residents that there's an obvious need for the MX from the standpoint of equity and livability. So in short, you have an obvious need that the community strongly supports.
Stacy Ludington is next, followed by Don Cayley.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Ludington. I live at 1653 Charnelton, and I support the West EMX mainly because I'm a UO student and I rely heavily on the EMX to get around. I don't currently shop on the 11th corridor because it's difficult to get to, and I would bring my business out there, but as of right now, I don't. Thank you.
Don Cayley is next, followed by Carlos Barrera.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm Don Cayley. I'm a Eugene resident of Ward 2. I'm also the Vice President for Better Eugene Springfield Transit, and I want to thank each of you for your public service. there's one voice of the public that won't get fairly represented tonight, so I'd like to at least remind you of that, and that is the unborn. This MX system won't really reach maturity for 20 to 30 years. So the people that are going to be able to appreciate it and use it when it's fully formed have not literally been born yet, certainly have not arrived yet. And so I'd like you to think about them, please, as you put your vote out. It's a difficult job to be a visionary for the future, but I'm sure that you're up to it. I think of each of you as very similar to Steve Greatwood, having to figure out when he looks at a high school sophomore what he's going to be like 7 or 8 years from then as a linebacker for the Oregon Ducks. He's 2 years out of puberty, and what's he going to look like 7 or 8 years after that? And that's the job that you guys have to do, and it's a difficult one. I'm glad you're doing it. I appreciate it very much, and thank you.
Carlos Ferreira is next, followed by Terry Byer.
Checkbook here somewhere. Mayor and councilors, I'm Carlos Barrera. I live at 2470 Olive Street in Eugene. I'm a member of the BEST Eugene Springfield Transportation Advisory Committee. I'd like to add my 2 cents to what people have been saying here. You've heard a lot of great arguments in favor of the West MX project, so I'm not going to recount them. Fortunately, I was late in the lineup, so all the great reasons have already been said. So I just want to ask you all to keep the vote to yourselves on this issue and to vote for its approval. Thank you.
Representative Terry Byer is next, followed by John Belcher. Welcome.
Terry Byer, State Representative, a resident of the city of Springfield, Oregon, and thank you for allowing me to be here today. I am here as a member of the BEST Board of Directors, and I'm not going to repeat anything, much of anything that people have said. What I figure I can add to this is that I'm a resident of a city that has been lucky to have 2 of the EMX lines come into our town, and it has been a huge benefit to the community. The fact that they can get to downtown Eugene is great. It would be even better if we could open that up for these people to get out to West Eugene. I'm hoping, the citizens of Springfield really appreciate the system, and they're looking forward to a more regional system, which will allow them a lot more options. I know that no project is without its complications. And Springfield's was not, it wasn't just a breeze to go through. In comparison, it probably was. But the businesses in the community had concerns about disruption of businesses, of their business, parking, you name it. There were concerns. But this was a great partnership between the City of Springfield and LTD to alleviate all the disruptions, or as much of the disruptions of their businesses as they could. And so I think that given the great city of Eugene should be able to do very well at keeping this project, should you go forward with it, on track and protecting the businesses in the area.
John Belcher is next, followed by Bill Randall.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I'm here before you tonight as a member of the Eugene Planning Commission and a member of the CLUTAC Committee, who you received a memo from us this afternoon, I do believe, and I'm here to tell you about that. CLUTAC is a Coordinated Land Use and Transportation Action Committee, a joint committee of the Planning Commission and the Sustainability Commission, and we completed a triple bottom line analysis of the West Eugene EMX corridor. That analysis covered 3 timeline impacts: construction, short-term within 5 years, and long-term between 5 and 20 years for each of the 3 aspects of the triple bottom line: equity, economy, and environment. The committee assigned a positive, negative, or neutral impact to various aspects of the corridor proposal. These impacts are shown in the document you received in a detailed table with supporting documentation via e-notes. or endnote, excuse me. Based on our analysis, the CLUTAC has determined that the benefits of our community from the West Eugene EMX corridor far outweigh any potential negative impacts. CLUTAC therefore strongly recommends your approval of the West Eugene EMX corridor. This report has subsequently been presented to both the Planning Commission and the Sustainability Commission. After reviewing the triple bottom line analysis, both commissions endorsed the CLUTAC report. The Sustainability Commission voted 12-0, and the Planning Commission voted 5-2. The memo does include comments from 2 planning commissioners who, although they support the MX project, had objections to the CLUTAC report, and their comments will be found in that document. I'll be followed by 3 additional members of CLUTAC who will describe the analysis for each of the 3 elements of our triple bottom line analysis. Thank you all.
Bill Randall is next, followed by Sasha Luftik.
My name is Bill Randall, and I'm a member of the Planning Commission and also a member of the CLUTAC team. And I'll be presenting our analysis related to social equity to you tonight. We looked at, during construction, there will be some decreased roadway access for adjacent households. There will be more particulate matter in the air and a higher level of noise pollution for residents and employees located near the transit line for an overall negative impact during this construction phase. However, in both the short term, the first 5 years, as well as the long term, the 5 to 20-year period, the quality of life will improve in nearby neighborhoods as traffic is reduced in those adjacent neighborhoods. The transit rider experience will improve due to shorter wait times, new lighting and security at MX stations, and more predictability. The new corridor will offer more active transportation options for more people, resulting in increased health benefits due to less air pollution. Disposable income will increase for families that currently spend a higher than average share of their income on transportation. Although some people may find it more difficult to access the transit stops, which will be on average 300 feet farther apart than stops in the current system, the MX buses have improved boarding mechanisms for seniors and alter-abled individuals. The West Eugene MX corridor will improve pedestrian safety by widening sidewalks and moving utility poles out of the way, out of the middle of the sidewalks, as well as bicycle safety by expanding access and connectivity to the Fern Ridge bike path. The result related to social equity in both the short term and the long term is an overall positive impact. Thank you.
Sasha Luftik is next, followed by Jessica Bloomfield.
Hello. My name is Sasha Luftig, and I live in Ward 1. I am a member of the Sustainability Commission and am speaking on behalf of the CLUTAC, and am covering the findings of our triple bottom line analysis on the impact on the local economy. During construction, we found that the project will have a neutral impact. We came to this conclusion due to the difficulty of quantifying the potential negative revenue impact some businesses will experience during this period. It is important to mention that there are mitigation measures planned by LTD to reduce some of these impacts. On the positive side, construction will create new jobs and a demand for related goods and services. The environmental assessment estimates this to add up to $103 million in labor income. In the short term, we found that the project will have an overall positive impact. We recognize some businesses may lose revenues and operational viability. However, there will be more opportunities for new development along the corridor. A recent study performed by the Metropolitan Research Center at the University of Utah found that between 2004 and 2010, along the Eugene-Springfield MX corridor, jobs located within a quarter mile of stations increased by nearly 3,000 jobs. From a quarter mile to a half mile from stations, jobs stayed about the same, and a half mile and further, jobs fell by about 5%. Also, a study by the U.S. Government Accountability Office on Bus Rapid Transit found that BRT projects improve transit service and can contribute to economic development. In the long term, we found that the project will have an overall positive impact. There are multiple studies that show there will be an overall increase in investment due to the feeling of permanence in the BRT infrastructure. Also, it is necessary to note, as Eugene's mode share shifts away from single occupancy vehicles and towards transit, biking, and walking, households will have more flexible income to spend in the local economy. Thank you.
Jessica Bloomfield is next, followed by Carlene Riley.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Bloomfield. I live in Ward 1. I'm on the Sustainability Commission and speaking on behalf of CLUTAC. And I will speak directly to the impacts of the EMX on the environment. Overall, we found that the EMX corridor will have a negative impact to the environment during construction, but will have a strong positive impact on the environment during the short and long-term time frames. During construction, there will be an increase in greenhouse gas emissions, air pollution, material use, and energy use due to the operation of diesel construction equipment and increased traffic congestion. In the short term, however, there will be a net decrease in greenhouse gas emissions and vehicle miles traveled due to increased transit ridership and more pedestrian and bicycle use as a result of enhanced infrastructure. There will also be reduced fuel consumption as a result of replacing traditional LTD buses with more fuel-efficient EMX vehicles. Overall, there will be a positive impact on the environment in this short-term 5-year time frame. In the long term, these short-term impacts will increase significantly. A functioning transit corridor will reduce overall traffic congestion, facilitate higher density and higher land values, and reduce pressure to develop elsewhere in the city. The transit project will be a catalyst for additional mode shift from cars to transit, walking, and biking, which are more viable modes of transportation for many members of the community. Overall, there will be a positive impact on the environment in this long term. Based on our analysis, this joint committee believes that the benefits to our community in extending the EMX corridor far outweigh any potential negative impacts. We therefore strongly recommend your approval of the West MX corridor. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Carlene Riley is next, followed by John Monroe.
Good evening. My name is Carlene Riley. I live at 395 Marion Lane, and I bring you greetings from the River Road Community Organization. We have collectively and publicly supported MX in prior visits with you, and we look forward to MX coming out River Road at some future time because we want to thrive economically. But I'm here to speak with you about opposing coal trains. On September 10th, 2012, at a regular meeting of ARCO, which was attended by 38 individuals, we held an informational panel and discussion on coal trains and how their travel along the western boundary of our neighborhood could impact us. We heard presentations from Merlin Huff, River Road resident and Lane Regional Air Protection Agency Director, and Bob Ferris, Cascadia Wildlands Executive Director. Although the Port of Coos Bay originally accepted our invitation to speak, they later declined. After the presentation and discussion, our members passed the following motions. Support Governor Kitzhaber's request to federal agencies for more study of coal train issues. That passed 17 votes and 1 abstention. Support the Resolution 5065 to the City Council to oppose the transport of coal for export through Eugene. That passed 14-0 with 1 abstention. And it authorized our board to draft a letter to the City Council along with our support of the resolutions we voted on. And it authorized that the letter summarize concerns about coal trains that were raised at our meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Monroe is next, followed by Ali Valkyrie.
Hello, my name is John Monroe. I'm in George Brown's ward. I'm here to speak against the renewal of the downtown public safety zone, or as it's more accurately called, the exclusion zone. At the center of the strategies that Chief Kearns has said he is implying or using in the downtown public safety zone is something he has called data-led policing. The idea behind this is that the police department uses cutting-edge statistical and computational systems in order to quickly evaluate how effective all of their tools and mechanisms are in maintaining public safety and in managing behavior, as he has put it in the past. Obviously, in the title, the data-led policing will require data to lead it. But as Gene Stacy brought up earlier tonight, that data has been withheld for months since it was originally requested before summer began. And when it was finally given over to us a week and a half ago, it was incoherent, it was poorly organized, and it had very little structure to allow us to actually quickly analyze the effectiveness of the downtown public safety zone. So even before we go in to ask the question as to whether or not the downtown public safety zone is working, the very strategy that the chief has said he wants to use has invalidated whether we can answer the question. We do not have the data, therefore how are we going to answer the question? So what we are left with are a number of extreme anecdotes of the very few violent offenders which should be excluded from downtown, and I'm glad that our police do that. And then the number of reports we have had as cop watchers and advocates from all those that have been excluded or attempted to be excluded from downtown for smoking a joint, for leaning against a building and receiving a trespassing 2 violation ticket, for failing to cross the crosswalk properly at a 90-degree angle, or even occasionally to cross in a blinking light, which I'm sure people on this council have done and gotten away with without receiving a ticket. And yet people face exclusion from the downtown and from all the services available because of such minor offenses. Thank you.
Allie Valkyrie is next, followed by Rosie Pryor.
My name is Allie Valkyrie. I think MX should be left to the public, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Richard Kurtz. You've probably seen him on the street. He's homeless. They call him Lefty. He's disabled due to a stroke. The right side of his body is immobilized, hence his nickname. He relies on a wheelchair to get around and is a fixture downtown. 5 days ago, Lefty offered to watch a dog for a friend. Due to the fact that he can't use the right side of his body, the dog was closely tied 3 times around his wheelchair. Officer Bremer approached Lefty and told him that it was illegal for his dog to be tied to the wheelchair and that the dog had to be in his hand or he would receive a citation. He was smoking a cigarette with the only hand he has. He then returned a short time later and ticketed Lefty under City Code 4.425, dog at large. I think it goes without saying that ticketing a one-armed man for having a dog tied to a wheelchair is morally indefensible. This is the city I live in. These are the kind of values that the community wishes to reflect. We're paying 9 cops downtown so they can engage in this behavior. This is not a legitimate use of law enforcement. This is not how an officer who is sworn to protect and serve should be acting. This is bullying. But not only is the citation morally indefensible, it's also legally questionable. Dog at large is defined in the city code as, quote, not under complete control by adequate leash, unquote. Nowhere does it say the leash must be in the owner's hand. Lefty had as much control over that dog as you could possibly expect from a man in a wheelchair who can only use one arm. A dog tied closely to a wheelchair is in better control than a dog walked by a child or a dog on a flexi leash. And now Lefty has to fight this in court, wasting judicial resources and taxpayer dollars. The blatant and persistent profiling downtown is unethical and unconstitutional, and it's eventually going to land the city in federal court. I'll say this right now, with what I've witnessed and documented over the past 18 months, if I was an attorney, I'd be suing your ass off. Lucky for you, I'm not. I can only bear witness and raise awareness and tell you how I feel. My feelings on this behavior is disgusting. Stop picking on the homeless. It's bullying. It's shameful. Stop it.
Rosie Pryor is next, followed by Joe Tyndall.
Mayor and Council, my name is Rosie Pryor. I reside in Ward 8. I, too, would like to make just 2 points tonight. One is, as a member of the Lane Community College Board of Education, I want to repeat to you that at our very last meeting, we unanimously passed a motion to reiterate our very emphatic support for the adopted regional transportation plan, including the bus rapid transit system, because of our conviction that it's an important part of a regional system. And that's the second point that I want to make to you tonight. I've resided in southwest Eugene for almost 40 years, and for those of us who've worked or lived in west or southwest Eugene, we've been waiting patiently for transportation improvements for over a quarter of a century. We need your help, and we hope you'll support the West Eugene MX line. Thank you.
Joe Tyndall is next, followed by Ellen Nelson.
Good evening, Joe Tyndall. I live on West Broadway. This is the last public forum before October 1st, when it was suggested we have a homeless village open. None of the 6 homeless task force recommendations has been implemented. Once again, this council could create a commission to work on homeless issues today, or you could do it on Wednesday at the Opportunity Village work session. This winter, hundreds will sleep in the cold and rain with police prodding them to move along. Thus far, our city has chosen punishment as its response to the homeless crisis. This is the most expensive option. It does not and cannot solve the problem. It maximizes misery and hatred. I did submit a proposal to use greenhouses to accommodate the homeless. To begin, we need only construct 1. This could be ready within 30 days. If the village delivers on promised benefits, we could construct additional greenhouses. Alternately, the city hall is sitting empty. I would like to make a donation to the city. This 1 penny covers more than covers the cost of the electricity used by the homeless person arrested for charging a cell phone. The cost of police, courts, and so on to process this arrest is likely to exceed 1 million times the actual damages. I also printed out a photo for you. There's a pile of them over there. I'll be handed out. Okay. It was taken at Broadway and Olive less than an hour after 3 homeless kids were threatened with arrest for precisely what this downtown guide is doing. Selective enforcement is the policy in Eugene. If you are a bad guy, you can expect to be nuked for any possible infraction. If you are a good guy, meaning you have money, then you are immune from this. Please stop this hypocrisy. If we engage in the above practices, we cannot legitimately label ourselves as a human rights city. Finally, when is the best time to plant fruit trees? 10 years ago. Please, plant the EMX.
Ellen Nelson is next, followed by Tom Snyder. Ellen? No Ellen. Tom Snyder? And then Bob Maccheroni.
Good evening. My name is Tom Snyder. I live at 1143 Monroe Street since the 70s. And I'm not here to talk about EMX. I'm here to talk about the eWeb Plaza. And all I really want to say is a couple things. I was part of the CAT meetings. I was there and a pain in the neck to the rest of them for more of the meetings than some of the actual CAT members were at. And the things I learned from that are, 1, that piece of property should remain in public ownership forever. That belongs, that was industrial property, and it has been for 100 years, and should be celebrated as such. Second, the people of this town don't know anything about that property. It's been hiding behind fences covered with ivy, and fences to keep it looking like, I don't know what's back there, I don't need to worry about it. Now we need to worry about it. We need to make sure some way that we can get people into that space. By the way, I haven't started my clock. Thank you for the extra gift. We need somebody, some help in making this property more accommodating, available, visible to the people who need to weigh in on this and see just what's at stake, because a lot is. I got involved in this 12 years ago with the steam plant when I first understood that this was going to be coming available for other things. From the word go, the notion of a museum has been mentioned. But nobody wants to talk about how do you make a museum out of a steam plant. Well, OMSI, for example, up on the river in Portland, has shown the way how to take that kind of a property and make it into something that the city is proud of. And frankly, one of the things I came out of the CAT meetings with was that there wasn't anything that I saw on their, here's our proposal, that I would say, by golly, I'm proud of that. That says Eugene to me. Not a bit. So, you know, Eugene is the only city I know of in the state of Oregon that does not have a city museum, oddly enough. So I think that this is the place for that. I'd like to see the steam plant converted to an energy museum with the help of eWeb. That's their whole deal, is power, water, and people. That's what ought to be happening there. And at the south end of that plant could be eliminated from all the ugly old tin stuff and the pieces that aren't very good, and turn that into 4 stories of history and food. Brew pub on the first floor, restaurant on top, and the city's stories about railroad, timber, agri-pack, and the river.
Bob Macaroni, you're next, followed by Deb Frisch.
Same amount of time. Bob Mascheroni, and for those people who want to throw rocks through my windows, I live at 1994 Brewer, and I also have a business downtown, and I know they know where I'm at there because they slash my sign and cut it regularly, so I know AMX sign. I'd like to say and spend some of my time just saying that I'm against the exclusion zone. Okay, I think it's unconstitutional, and I'm a business owner downtown, and I know the impacts of having homeless people around and whatnot, and I'm against it. So I'm going to go into the EMS thing, and I was surprised to see so many people here tonight, because I've been to these city council meetings and board meetings and pension meetings for LTD, and I haven't seen any of these people there. And so suddenly they have appeared, and I have to tell them they're a little late, because the public input period for the EA ended at the end of last month, and there was over 300 inputs, and most of them negative. Not what LTD is going to tell you in your work session paperwork. And so most of them were negative. We at OMA do believe in sustainable transit, and we presented information and data that is more accurate than LTD's. If they're not going to admit to that, that's okay. This is a NEPA fight now. It's left count. So it really doesn't matter how you vote. I do appreciate Mr. Polling asking it to go to a public vote. The reason these guys probably don't want it is, one, they haven't spoken to OMA at all. I haven't heard from anybody back there that's actually sat down and had a conversation with me. And they're afraid of the 45% of Eugene that polled against it. So it's not just West 11th. It's not what they're saying. It's the 45% that polled against it that they're afraid of. Thank you.
Deb Frisch is next, followed by Lorraine Kerwood.
She left.
Deb's not here. Lorraine? You're up. Followed by Sabra Marcroft.
Mayor Piercy and City Council members, thank you for your service to our community. My name is Lorraine Kerwood. I'm a City of Eugene member of George Brown's Ward 1. I've been a member of the City of Eugene's Sustainability Commission. I'm also presently a member of the City of Eugene Human Rights Commission. I am also a member of the Best Advisory Committee because I support mass transit and want to see less cars on our road. I'm the founder of Next Step Recycling, a community organization dedicated to protecting our environment and empowering community members. I'm also a bicycle commuter and an LTD rider. I use the EMX to connect me with the Springfield community on a regular basis. I'm here to remind all of us that change doesn't happen unless change happens. I come to you as someone who is grateful that I can roll my bike right onto the bus, but also as an individual for the last 2 years who needed assistance to walk. I found the EMX system very safe and friendly for me to use when I was on crutches and had to use a wheeled cart. My friends who use wheelchairs to maneuver in Eugene have told me that EMX is much easier to board than curbside loading. Stops are covered, so those in wheelchairs are protected from our lovely Oregon rains, and the commute is shortened. When I have spoken to trainees at Next Step, asking them if they would like to see the West Eugene EMX extension, we see over 150 individuals a month at our facility on West 10th Street and Garfield. It's a resounding yes for the EMX extension. Many of these individuals spoke to the need to move through our city quickly and to have access to education. With the new LCC campus downtown and the U of O in Eugene, the EMX extension will help them connect to education and to the resources they need: supermarkets, the employment office, the Eugene Library, etc.
Thank you. Next is Marcroft, followed by Charles Hibbard.
Hi, my name is Sabra Marcroft. I live in Ward 7. People who look like me rarely get tickets for doing things, even relatively outrageous things downtown. People who look scruffy, young, or old, and dirty often do. Selective enforcement is a two-edged sword. I've recently heard rumor that police department and county personnel have done a really good job of selective enforcement in some areas down by the river, where they have come in and selectively cleaned out people who were preying on their neighbors and didn't disturb those who weren't causing any problems by being out there. I appreciate that very much, but it's such a responsibility to put on law enforcement. And I really, really wish that you would all think about that. How many times that somebody's good intention as a law enforcement person may turn bad because the guidance is not there, because the law is impossible to follow in the current circumstances with homelessness as huge a problem as it is. Thank you very much.
Charles Hibbard is next, followed by Dave Hauser. Charles?
I just want to say, I think the exclusion zone just feels, I'm an immigrant to the United States, and it just feels un-American to exclude specific people. I know the law enforcement has a terrible time, a difficult job, but there's got to be another solution. But anyway, I came here to talk about, I'm Charles Hibbert and I've got a business on West 11th, and I live down on River Road area. The West Eugene EMX is not the same by any means that what the EMX is, the existing EMX between downtown Eugene and Springfield, or the one that goes to the hospital. First of all, that EMX, the buses on that route were already busy when they built the EMX. There was two hubs, the center of Eugene to the center of Springfield. On one end, they've got a university that has thousands and thousands, probably 30 or 40,000 people come in and go in. And on the other end, they've got a hub that feeds the Springfield hub area. And the buses are running on a specific route between the freeway where there was already access, and the same as the one that goes to the hospital. There was already a way to put that there, and it was cost effective. The West 11th Eugene EMX isn't going to run its own route. It's going to be mixed traffic. I can't see how 80 buses that are empty are going to be more environmentally friendly than the 20 or 30 buses that are empty that are running right now. Secondly, these people say, oh, well, the Eugene is going to grow. Where are all the people going to come from on West 11th? When we were at the Pacific Source at the meeting there, and they showed photographs of the improvements they're going to make, I never saw any residents. They were all factories. If you go down West 11th, none of these people that are supporting the West 11th Eugene EMX have gone down there and see what kind of businesses are down there. They're industrial businesses in big premises with small amount of employees. There's no way to expand there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Hauser is next, followed by Rob Zako.
Mayor, Council, my name is Dave Hauser. I reside in Ward 5. I'm here tonight representing the Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce. It's an organization that's been a part of this community since 1902. We have 1,200 members, and throughout our history we've advanced programs and initiatives that help create a healthy economy that contribute to the livability of our area. Our board and our local government affairs council have supported the West Eugene extension of MX, and our support is based on a variety of things I'd like to mention briefly. First, a long-standing support for mass transit within our membership and the broader business community, and the important role it plays in the economy and the community. In a recent poll of our members, 82% indicated they supported mass transit, an important component of a regional transportation system. Second, the performance of the initial MX corridors, which has been talked about tonight. We offered conditional support of MX as part of Transpan over a decade ago. We said, prove it, and the ridership numbers for the initial 2 corridors clearly do prove that if you build it, people will use it. We have felt for some time the need for additional transportation capacity in West Eugene in order to support continued development and redevelopment. Many of you are aware that we were the leading advocate for the West Eugene Parkway. Part of our advocacy was based on the need for additional transportation capacity in West Eugene. The MX can be a part of that solution, and certainly it's embedded in most of the planning concepts within the Envision Eugene process. Our support is based on a desire to see over $100 million injected into of state and federal funds injected into our community, along with the creation of 1,200 jobs. And finally, we believe the project can be undertaken with a keen eye on the impacted businesses. So we urge your support for this project, and I commit the resources of our chamber to do whatever we can to make sure it's done right. Thank you.
Last up, Rob Zako.
Yes, Zakos are always last. I wear many hats. Tonight I come to you as a board member of Springfield Transit, and let me just read this to you. The Eugene Bus Rapid Transit System is a key element of the community's transportation system. In order to alleviate traffic congestion, improve transportation options for all members of the community, and promote economic development along transit corridors, we need to invest in MX. For these reasons, we support the Eugene MX extension. And that statement has been signed by all these organizations and businesses listed below. We've talked to many others who actually fear retaliation and say they support MX but don't want to say so publicly. I think you know a lot of these people. You've heard from many of our board of directors and board of advisors. You've heard from the University of Oregon, from Lane Community College, Eugene's Chamber of Commerce, the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, from 1,000 Friends of Oregon, Oregon League of Conservation Voters, St. Vincent de Paul, Shelter Care, and on and on. I'll present this to you, Mayor Piercy. There's a list of this. That's my first point. Second, best would welcome a conversation with Will Rock and Bob Mascheroni. Actually, a couple years ago, Mayor Piercy and I went to the Pancake House, and I felt actually badgered. I just went there to learn. I hadn't really gotten engaged in this process and was told that I was stupid and thinking wrong and what I need to think. That said, we would be welcome to sit down with them. We think that the proposal on the table is not perfect. We're in favor of better transit, not perfect transit. Let's figure out together how we can do this, make it work for our community, and solve the problems in terms of construction and impacts on businesses. Lastly, I just want to remind you that we're in a bit of a fishbowl here in Eugene. We've done some amazing things, and I hope we continue to do so. I believe it was in May that a delegation of about 50 people from Nashville, Tennessee came here to see our MX system. Frankly, they want it. If you vote it down, the money goes to Nashville or somewhere else. I know you're not going to do that. I know that you're going to build on the plans we've been laying down for the past 20 years for a better community, give us ourselves better choices. Thank you for all of your work on this. Good night.
You.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, I was late coming and there were no more grants.
Sorry.
No more.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to close the forum and thank everyone very much for being here. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it a great deal. Night.
Jacob. Yes, Joe.